Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly heartbreaking event out of Tangail, examining how what was supposed to be a simple rescue completely escalated into a devastating, multi-fatality incident. We're looking at a tragedy that fundamentally shifts how we view the perfectly mundane spaces right in our own backyards. It's a story of instinct, unseen chemical hazards, and a community forever changed in just a matter of minutes.
We really have to start by looking at the staggering human cost here. Who will run everything? Father is gone, there is no one else for us. Hearing that raw emotion from the surviving family members really underscores why it is so absolutely crucial we understand exactly what went wrong. This isn't just a clinical case study, right? This is a catastrophic loss for a family whose pillars of support just vanished in the blink of an eye.
All right, Section 1, a seemingly harmless accident. To really wrap our heads around how this unfolded, we've got to look at the setting where it all began. Picture this. You're standing in the rural backyard of a guy named Gabriel Norek. We're in Joloi village, deeply nestled within the Madhupur forest. It's a quiet, tight-knit, indigenous Garo community. Just a totally normal morning. Kids are playing in the yard, people are going about their daily routines. But then, suddenly, a small baby goat accidentally tumbles into an abandoned, unsealed toilet pit right there on the property. And honestly, it's the kind of everyday mishap you'd fully expect in a rural agricultural setting. Nobody panicked at first. It was just a minor problem that needed a quick fix.
Which brings us to Section 2, the deadly chain reaction.
What started as the super simple animal rescue just rapidly spiraled into an absolute nightmare. The sequence of events here brilliantly and tragically illustrates the domino effect of human psychology during a crisis. First up, young Neymar Miswejrong sees the trapped goat and naturally climbs down into the narrow pit to scoop it up. But time passes and he doesn't make a sound. No calls for help, just eerie silence. So panic sets in. His uncle, Ratan Nogret, goes down after him. Again, absolute silence. Desperation completely takes over at this point. Neymar's father, Bubble Hajong, plunges into the pit to save his son and his brother-in-law. Nothing. Finally, the neighbor and property owner, Gabriel, goes in. 4 people, entering one after another, essentially swallowed by a silent hole in the ground.
So this brings us to a really critical moment. We literally have to ask ourselves, how does a completely common residential pit become a silent death trap for 4 people? They weren't trapped by falling debris. They weren't drowning in water. They simply went in and never came back out, without even a single cry for help. What in the world could incapacitate grown men so instantly?
The real kicker here, the tragic irony of it all, is that a pure instinctual drive to help resulted in such an unimaginable loss. The intent was innocent, right? Just saving one small, vulnerable animal. But the outcome was a devastating multiplier of grief, taking 4 human lives. It perfectly highlights how blind spots in our understanding of our immediate environments can totally turn our best instincts against us.
Let's dive into Section 3, Unmasking the Hidden Killer. Well, when the community finally realized no one was coming out of that hole, they called for help. First responders get there, retrieve the bodies, and quickly identify that this wasn't just an empty hole. It was a confined space suffering from total 100% oxygen depletion. The victims suffered fatal respiratory failure almost the exact second they breathed in the atmosphere at the bottom of that pit. But the mystery still remained. Where did the toxic gas even come from in a simple village backyard? Now, the specific local context is what actually solves this mystery. See, this area is super well known for pineapple farming. Over time, discarded empty pesticide bottles from the nearby farms had just been casually tossed into this abandoned pit as a makeshift trash can. Let's trace the steps here because it's important. First, the bottles are dumped. Next, residual chemicals slowly leak out, they mix, and they react together in this damp, dark, completely unventilated space. Ultimately, a highly deadly toxic gas is generated, and because it's heavier than air, it settles right at the bottom, completely displacing all the breathable oxygen. Without anyone having a clue, a lethal, invisible gas chamber had been forming right under their feet for months.
And that leads us to Section 4, Grief in the Community.
The science explains the how, for sure, but man, the human element is what really lingers long after the first responders pack up and leave. Four lives extinguished in mere minutes, leaving the entire area totally stunned and completely silenced by the sudden massive loss. Actually, it is incredibly rare for a small, isolated village to lose 4 members simultaneously in a single, localized accident like this.
Reporters arriving on the scene described the entire area as just completely paralyzed by shock.
Now, the police actually respected the cultural and religious wishes of the indigenous Garo community, handing the bodies over for burial without an autopsy. The authorities recognized the clear cause of death, right? So they deferred to the community's traditions. The family and neighbors quickly scrambled to arrange a collective burial with Christian final rites at 10 a.m. the very next morning, just desperately trying to find some semblance of peace in a situation that offered absolutely none.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to stop and consider the everyday spaces right around you. Think about how a split-second decision in a seemingly totally normal environment can have devastating consequences if we ignore hidden chemical dangers. We throw things away all the time, cleaning supplies, old garden chemicals, batteries, without a second thought about where they go or how they might react in the dark. The tragedy in Tangail is a heartbreaking lesson in confined space hazards and the invisible chemical legacy we can unknowingly leave in our own backyards. So look around your own home today and ask yourself, are there silent dangers accumulating right out of sight? Thank you for walking through this complex and heavy topic with me today, and I really hope it changes the way you look at the safety of the spaces we take for granted.